Hello, friends. If you're joining me from Instagram or TikTok, welcome. If you just found me on YouTube, that's cool too. I'm Sammy. I'm the owner of Infinity Aura Avenue, where we just curate everything for your aura, whether it's a spiritual cleanse or a clean brand face wash. What I want to talk to you guys today about is the tarot. There's a lot of misconceptions. Let me tell you how I got involved with tarot first, because if you're here, you're probably familiar with the general idea of tarot, at least, right? So, my whole life I've been into spirituality. I've seen shops, spiritual shops all over the world. If I was traveling, I made sure to go check out whatever the local spiritual shop was doing. When I was about somewhere in my early 20s, I got my first tarot deck. Somebody gave me a tarot deck, and a couple years later I got into astrology. So as far as readings go, my original mode of reading, and even though you guys see me a lot for astrology, was tarot. That's how I learned the basics of a lot of these things. I used to go and have readings. Actually, one time I asked somebody if they would teach, and it was like in the middle of a reading, and that's when I knew that I was not getting a great reading because the vibes were off, and it was almost like this was not this was not the teacher for me. So hopefully you're joining me because you vibe with me and you feel like maybe I can teach you something, or maybe you just like to hang out. Maybe I'm on the background just yapping away. But anyway, let's get to it. First of all, tarot is a divination tool. And what that means is the reader, the tarot reader, is just interpreting the cards. We're not actually this information is like between you and your guides, essentially. Sometimes our own guides, but we're just the interpreters of the cards, which is why I tell people it is so important. I think it's important that you learn to give yourself tarot readings. Even as a tarot reader myself, I will go get readings from other people because sometimes you need another perspective. But what I will say is I've had readings where like you get into the room and you're getting the reading and you're working through something, or you're obviously looking for information for something that you're going through, right? And you don't exactly want to share all the details with this person. So being able to go home and pull the cards for yourself is such a bonus, even if you're still getting readings from other people. So pulling cards is a very, very old tool used for divination. It used to be playing cards they would use, and you'll see this through the deck. There are four totems, as I like to call them, but there's also four. What are they called in the regular deck? Suits. They're suits. Four suits in the deck. So there's four suits in the deck and four in like a regular playing card deck. And there's four totems. I like to call them totems because they're just items. So instead of, I have my notes here. So instead of the clubs in like a regular deck of cards, you have the wands, right? And in the wands, I just sorted through all these cards. I haven't done this in years in this deck. Like my deck is in full order for you guys. I haven't done that. Like we're all right. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, these are the wands, right? They look like sticks. We call them wands. But just like in a regular playing card decks, they correlate, right? So you'll have these four totems, if you so would like to call them, which are wands, which would be the clubs, pentacles, which would be the diamonds, cups, which would be the hearts, and swords, which would be the spades. Okay. So people used to do this, mostly gypsies. They would use the playing cards in public so that people didn't know what they were doing. And I'm not going to pretend to be able to read a regular deck of cards. Not my bag. It's great for some people. I prefer the original Rider Waite tarot deck. Especially if you're just learning, okay? I do have other decks, but when I'm talking to you guys, a lot of the times I'm going to be working off the Rider Waite tarot deck. It was published in 1909. In addition to those cards that I just showed you with the suits, you also have 22 major cards, right? Those would be the minor cards. I probably should have told you that. Major cards. These are in addition to that. And what these are the Fool's Journey. We're going to go over that real quick. Um, later. Well, it's not quick, but we're going to go over a little bit of it. But you can see the difference because these cards, they all have the title of what the card is at the bottom, okay? They are numbered like the other cards. 0, 1, right? There's 22 of these. And these are numbered 1 to 10. And then you have the court cards just as you would have the king of clubs and the queen of clubs, whatever. You have, and we'll talk about those. We'll talk about what that means in a second. So the reason that I prefer to use the Rider-Waite deck when I'm talking to people about the tarot is because, first of all, this deck was published in 1909. It was one of the first like widely published popular tarot decks that people could get their hands on. The art was done by Pamela Coleman Smith. She's not, I shouldn't say just, but she's an artist. And the deck, like the construction of the deck, was mostly done by A.E. Waite, who was a poet, but also was a mystic who wrote on the occult and esotericism. He does have some books out there that you can read. Now, like I said, there's a total of 78 cards, consists of 22 of these major cards, and then 56 of the minor cards, which are the ones with our totems or suits, whatever you like. So let's talk about the major cards. These are big themes in your life. When these cards come up, they are likely a little bit louder than the other cards. Like they represent, hey, pay attention to this kind of vibe. They're usually like a big energy shift in whatever the reading is for. And we'll talk about how to decipher that in a second. And then these cards, we're just going to use the pentacles for right now. These cards are more like a daily, like smaller details kind of thing. The other ones are more like milestones, and these are smaller details. Now, you will see this is the Ace of Pentacles, right? I might as well just show them all to you. Every totem that we have here has an ace. It is the beginning of, obviously, or the end, or I like to say it's the beginning, but every beginning is an end, right? That's what we're gonna get real deep in here real quick. I'm trying to keep this basic. Okay, these are the beginning, and these will show you just a representation of what you're actually looking at, what these items actually are, how they come up in the deck, and what they look like. And we're not going to talk about too deep exactly what they are. I'm going to do other videos, and we'll get into that so you guys can learn and study and play your own cards, whatever. But I want to show you. Let's go back to the Pentacles. I'm trying to keep this as organized as possible. So you'll have 1, 2. Now there's 2 of them in there. You see where this is going? 1 pentacle, 2 pentacle, 3 pentacle, all the way up to 10 pentacles, and that goes through every suit. And then you have the court cards in each, right? Which is usually 2 younger characters. Are these in order? Yes, a page and a knight. And then you have the queen and the king. These typically will represent people. They can also represent the energy of people or the type of energy of a person that's coming through. Sometimes they're related directly to their astrology sign. So when you're learning, and if you're when I was learning like, I did tarot for a while, and then when I started picking up astrology, and I would go back to tarot. And it's like they go hand in hand. If you're learning both of them, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. If you get into it and it works for you, it really works for you. That's the thing. I've said this before. The reason I think I'm so good at tarot and astrology is because like I did not want to believe it, and every time I have put it down, I have suffered for it. I have suffered for it. And when I come back to it, everything is so much smoother. I don't even know. We can get into that too, but you see how distracted I get? But whatever. Anyway, So, these will come up as people. Sometimes they'll come up with signs. So typically, pentacles will be earth signs. Like I said, we'll get into that deeper in another video. What I want to talk about, some other notes that I have here. Common misconceptions. Oh, actually, first, let's talk about oracle decks first, tarot decks. So, a lot of people will get a deck and they don't really know what they're set up to get. Um, Tarot decks are mostly based off of this Rider Waite deck. And you can get tarot decks from all different artists. People make their own. If it's a true tarot deck, it will be it will function the same way the Rider Waite functions, and it will be based off of sometimes very loosely, sometimes you can really see the parallels, but it will be based off the Rider Waite deck. And that's why I tell people this is the best deck to start with, because if you can read this deck, once you move to another deck, it just translates so beautifully. Whereas if you learn with another deck and then you're skipping over to other decks, sometimes the art's a little bit different. This is very, very straightforward as far as symbolism and colors and names, and it will translate. It's so, so much easier to start reading with this because this is the original, baby. An oracle deck. An oracle deck is completely different from a tarot deck, okay? Anybody can create any kind of art that they want with any kind of message. It can be any number of cards. It doesn't have the totems, it doesn't have the Fool's Journey, which I said we'll talk about another time, but not these cards. Okay, the major arcana cards. There's none of that in there. It's completely different. So you have to, you can use them together. Once you get into a thing, you can use Oracle separate. But when you're reading tarot and people are talking about tarot, they are typically talking about either the Rider Waite deck or a deck that has been fashioned after the Rider Waite deck. You do not need to be gifted your first tarot deck. I was. Sometimes it just happens that way. But if you are drawn to it and you are interested in it, consider that your invitation. You can pick them up at infinityauraav.com, but also pretty much any spiritual store. I do have Rider Waite's. So all the decks that I keep in stock currently, I'm filming this in May 2026, so whenever you happen upon this might be different. But currently, the decks that I have, this is my little retail shop, which is everything is online. The decks that I have are pretty much either Rider Waite, different variations of the Rider Waite, or I have one Tarot Grand Deluxe, which was one of my first decks that was not Rider Waite, which is very, very close, and I just really like the art, so I threw that in there for you guys as well. Used decks. I've had people ask me about this. Can I get a used deck? Does it have banner energy on it? Whatever. Fine, get a used deck. If you go to a store and you see an open used deck, first of all, just make sure all the cards are in there. Okay, don't just buy whatever is out there just because it says it's used deck and it's full. Make sure all the cards are in there. But I don't see anything wrong with buying a used deck. When you take it home, you cleanse it. There's many different ways to cleanse it. We'll do a video on that. That's going to be a pretty short video. Do I have that on here? We'll just go over it really quick. There's many ways to cleanse a deck. You can just sage it. Okay, this is like a sage stick, literally. But this is just a section of my deck. Just like that, right? On the outside, make sure it gets clean, shuffle them. When I told you guys that I took this deck apart, and I put it down, I wanted to be able to have them in order for you guys, so it was easier for me to pick them up and you can see what I'm talking about. This is also a great way to cleanse a used deck, is to put the cards back in order and sage them and then reshuffle them. You can put them on your altar. If you have an altar, light a protection candle. This is not a protection candle, but this is one of my candles that are at infinityauraav.com. This is a love candle. It's called Bonded by Venus. It doesn't have to be romantic love. It can be self-love, friendly love, just general in love. But if this was a protection candle, which I also do have, you can light the candle and you can run the cards through the smoke. Whatever your method is of cleansing a deck and resetting the energy is valid. It's your own ritual. I'm just providing to you some ideas. I have seen the decks that have the words on the outside that will tell you what the card means. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't love it. The reason I don't love it is because, yes, you wanna know the meaning of the card, okay? You wanna be able to look at a card and know what it represents. But you also really need to use your intuition. I need you to look at the art, okay? Because these cards are gonna come up differently in readings, and sometimes it's not so mechanical. Sometimes you're looking at the art and it's certain symbols stand out to you a little bit more than other symbols. And when you just have the card and the words, like, it becomes too mechanical. And it's like, this is intuition based work that we're doing here. This is not like, a lot of spirituality is not logical. I'm not gonna lie to you. And it is what it is. And this is why I think also that I'm so good at it, because I do have a logical brain for the most part, and then spirituality just sucked me in. And I just feel like you can't argue with results, and it's just always been so good to me, which is why I want to share it with you guys. But what I'm trying to say is, you can't use the logical data points of what the card is all the time as much as you need to look at the card and use your intuition and see where the card is speaking to you. This is why when people get a deck, the first thing I recommend is not to look at the booklet. Do not look at the booklet. Go through the cards one by one, get a little notebook, go through the cards one by one, write the name of the card, and write the things that you notice about the card and what you think is going on in this card and what that might represent. And then you go back and you look at the book and compare. The reason the tarot is made with art is because art is up for interpretation. So you have to use the interpretation of the art in the moment while you're looking at the cards. And if you've pulled a large spread, that's what we call it when we put the cards in a certain order and we're looking at the cards, you need to look at all of the cards, okay? No card is by itself when you're pulling a lot of cards. You have to look at everything that you've just pulled and interpret the art of the situation. And when you have those cards with the words all over them, it takes away from it. I think this is the difference between putting your dog on a harness and letting it pull you all over the place, and just having the harness on so you think that it's safer than the collar. Whereas if you were to teach your dog to walk on a collar next to you, you wouldn't even have to worry about pulling, because the dog's gonna do what the dog has been trained to do, what the dog is meant to do, instead of letting it just take you on the harness. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. I've trained a lot of dogs in my lifetime. So so that's the way that I think about it, is the difference. Tarot, you can't just let it take you by the bullet points, okay? You have to put the collar on it and respect it, obviously, because this is still a long-term divination spiritual tool. But you have to put the collar on it through your own lens and go, okay, this is how we're going to work with it. And when you do that, you will notice certain cards come up for certain things that speak to you specifically, because you have seen them in this light before, and the cards will work with you and the way that you interpret them, instead of the way that you're trying to think A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because you read it on a list of what this card is supposed to mean. So that's pretty much what I want to talk to you guys about in this video. I think in the next video, I'll go a little bit deeper into spreads and ways to use the tarot. But like I said, if you're going to get a deck and you're going to start and you want to know um, how to use them to your own advantage correctly, this is an intuition. None of this makes sense. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Okay? The way that the tarot works, and the way, like, it is set up for you in a way where, like, when you look at the book and you look at the words that are in the book, the keywords that this card means that and that, it's not until you start to operate in the tarot that you're like, "Oh," because you will see it over and over. You will see the way that it's supposed to work. Another great thing to do when you get your first deck is pull a card for the day, and just one card. Just start with one card. What's the vibe of the day going to be? And you'll start to see themes. And I actually, when I was doing that, I would keep a journal, and then come back at the end of the day and see how the card related to the end of the day. So in the morning, you're refreshing your knowledge on the card. You're going, okay, well, this card means that. And now I'm going to go about my day and see how my day goes. And then at the end of the day, you come back and you look at how your day went and you reflect with it with the card, and you'll start to see patterns. This is a great way to start, because if you get into it and you just start pulling cards and laying out spreads, it's very confusing. You have to break it down piece by piece, which is what I'm hoping to do with you guys. In the next video, we will talk about different kinds of spreads, what you can use them for, and whatever else I feel like I don't really know yet. This is as far as I've gotten. I just wanted to get this video out. So I hope it was helpful. I'm Sammy at Infinity Aura Avenue, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.